Have you been going on multiple listing appointments only to not get the listing, and now you're thinking what's going on and what am I doing wrong as to why this is happening? Well, in today's video, I will be sharing with you 7 different reasons why this might be happening. What's going on, everyone? Loida with Team BC at eXp Realty. And if you are in that situation where you are setting listing appointments, you're going and these sellers are just not signing, there's probably quite a few things that are going on. First, maybe they're just not even a motivated or realistic seller. A lot of times, especially when you're new, you set these listing appointments or you talk to these homeowners that tell you that, yeah, I'm thinking about selling. Why don't you come on over and tell me what you think? When they tell you that phrase, come on over and tell me what you think, that does not necessarily mean that that is a listing appointment. At the same time, let's say that they give you a figure that is completely in another world that you know that they're not even going to get. Again, this is not a serious seller. If they tell you, I'll sell my house for $1 million, when clearly you know that the property is worth maybe $250,000, but you still go on the appointment because you think that you're going to just persuade them and convince them to list with you, I can tell you now it's not going to happen. And again, those are not realistic or motivated sellers. Reason number 2 as to why they're probably not signing is because maybe they're just not ready. Let's say, for example, that you're talking to some sellers and they told you that they're waiting until their kids finish school before they start the process. First of all, they're giving you a condition. Let's say that you're having this conversation with them early in the year. Maybe it's January, and they told you that they're waiting for the kids to finish school, which means probably May, June. And by that time is when they are ready to get the ball rolling. If you set an appointment for January or February, if you end up going, chances are that what you're going to hear is that they're going to tell you, oh, well, you know what? We're not ready right now. But everything that you said sounds good and it looks good, but we're just not ready. So when we're ready, we're going to let you know. Again, maybe you set the appointment too soon in that time frame that, of course, if you go, they're not going to sign because they're not ready. Whatever you say is not going to change their mind, because this is what is called a condition. The condition being that they have to wait until their kids finish school in order for them to get the ball rolling. So they're not going to do anything anytime before that. Reason number 3 might be that they just don't feel confident in you. Maybe you did not deliver a good presentation. You were not good in explaining the price, the marketing, or what exactly it was that you would be doing to help them sell the home. So in a way, they're not convinced about using you as a real estate agent. When they tell you lines like, oh, you know what, we got to think about it, but we're going to let you know tomorrow. If you hear that, you need to have an objection handler for that. I think that in my YouTube channel, I have many objection handling videos, and you can probably find some other ones here on YouTube, but make sure that you have objection handlers for when you hear lines like that. You never want to leave an appointment thinking that they are going to call you back the next day, because usually when I hear the phrase, I want to think about it, I personally, immediately on the spot, I call them out and I say, okay, well, what is there to think about? Because the last thing that I want to do is leave an appointment without a contract signed. When I go on a listing appointment, I want to know that if that person likes me, they're going to get the ball rolling. Or if they don't like me, then cool, you know what? Let me know. Because I hate that uncertainty of leaving an appointment. And usually what sellers will do, and they'll tell it straight to your face, is that they'll say, you know what, Loida, everything looks good. We like you. We like your approach and blah, 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 blah. We're totally going to go with you. But if you don't have a contract signed, all of that they just told you means nothing, because what will end up happening is that the moment that you leave, maybe they'll have a conversation with the neighbor or with a family member or with a friend, and maybe that family member or friend is going to tell them something that might be against what you just said, and now they are going to maybe completely disregard you, or they're going to start second guessing themselves as to whether or not they should use you. So even if they tell you that you're the best agent in the world and you had a great presentation, I wouldn't even consider that a valid thing coming from them, because if they didn't sign, clearly I didn't do something right. But again, that is just me and my approach. The way that I think, if I leave a listing appointment without the contract signed, there's a 50-50 chance that I'm going to get it. But the way that I think is that I don't even think that I got it anymore, because my chances have gone significantly down. Because again, there might be some other outside circumstances that will now influence that seller to make a different decision. Reason number 5 is because maybe they're just adamant about only paying 1%. And that's it. There will be sellers that will beat you on the commission, and no matter how many different objection handlers you have, they just will not pay you full commission. I have walked away from many sellers at listing appointments where they wanted to pay me 4% and I stood my ground for 6%. And I ended up walking away. I did try to show them exactly the reasoning behind why I was charging the percentage of commission that I was, and they just did not see the value in that. So at that point, I hold myself, and I have certain standards that I work by, that I was willing to walk away because I was not going to take a listing for 4%. Maybe you that are watching this, maybe you're like, who cares? Like, I'll take it for 4%. And again, that's you. The way that I work is how I work, but this is just an example of how maybe you are just not going to agree with a seller on certain terms, and as much as you try, they don't see the value in you, so again, you don't get the listing. Number 6, this one is my favorite, especially if you're a brand new agent, and that is that you think you have a listing appointment, but it's not really an appointment. It's more like, I'm gonna stop by and check in and introduce myself to the seller, and you think that that's an appointment, but it's really not. You have to make sure that it is very clear that if you are going over to a seller's house and you think that it's a listing appointment, it has to be clear to both you and the seller that the purpose of you both getting together is because first, they have a need and they have expressed an interest in selling. And number 2 is because a decision will be made at that meeting as to whether or not they're going to hire you to get the property sold. What I see happening all the time is that agents go on these appointments thinking that, I'm just going to convince the seller because he did express some interest in selling. And once I'm there on the spot, I'm just going to try and make him sign. And first of all, they're not going to sign because obviously to them, they had no idea that this was a listing appointment. Maybe they thought that you were just coming over to look at the house and give them some feedback. And maybe you thought that that was an appointment to get the contract signed, to get the ball rolling. And again, you just want to make sure that all parties are clear as to what the intention of that meeting is going to be. I hate wasting my time. I would rather reschedule an appointment, especially if the seller's not ready, because I don't want to drive to a property to later be told, we're actually not selling or whatever it is. If I thought that it was a listing appointment and the seller ends up turning things around and I'm confused, I will call them out. Because what I like to do very well is that I pre-qualify any seller before I go on the appointment. I have a video that I have done before, and I'm going to link it somewhere here that you guys can watch on 6 steps on how to prepare for a listing appointment. Make sure to watch that, especially if you're preparing for an appointment coming soon, because this is really what's going to guide you to hopefully, once you're in person, get that contract signed. So again, I don't like to waste my time, and I like to make it very clear to my seller that if we're meeting, it's because there is an intention of them selling, and at that meeting, it will be determined whether or not I'm the right agent to help them with what they want to do. And number 7, this might happen because not all of the decision makers are at the meeting. It's extremely important that if you set a listing appointment, that you confirm with the seller that every single decision maker will be at the meeting. Now, what might happen is that there's only one person on title. Maybe it's the husband. And you think, the husband's the only one on title, so technically he's the only decision maker. Wrong. You want to make sure that if he's married, his wife is there. You want to find out if there's any other decision makers that will contribute to figuring out and deciding as to whether or not, they're going to hire you. Because again, what I see happening so many times is that listing appointments are set. Agents end up going. It turns out that not all of the decision makers are there. And when that happens, you go, you do this listing presentation, and the seller tells you, well, you know what? Everything sounds good, but I have to run it by my wife, or I have to run it by my husband, or, I have to check with my sister, my brother, my mom, whoever it is. They start mentioning all these different people that are not necessarily on title, but they have a say in the decision that's going to be made. So as you're pre-qualifying these sellers, make sure that you're asking, Mr. Seller, aside from you, are there any other decision makers that are going to be involved in the process of selling this house? And at that point, they might say, oh, well, it's just me and my wife, but I'm the only one on title. Okay, perfect. Well, you know what? Are you and your wife going to be both available for our meeting? Because I want to make sure that I answer the questions that you both might have. And the reason that you want to have every single decision maker at that meeting is because at that point, you can answer any question that anyone has. So then your chances of getting the contract signed are going to be much higher, because now you don't have to worry that Mr. Seller is going to go relay the information to his wife, and it turns out he doesn't do it correctly. So now the wife has a misunderstanding about you, and that's all stuff that we want to avoid. So that's it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Once again, make sure to check out all of the previous videos that I have done regarding working with sellers and listing appointments, because it's going to answer a lot of the questions that you probably already have. Also, make sure to check out the video that I have where I did a listing presentation. It was a role play, and it was one of the very first videos that I posted here on my channel. And if you have no idea how a listing presentation goes, this video will share with you exactly everything that you need to know. So thanks again for watching. Make sure to share this video with someone else, and I will see you on the next one.